get started in 3, 2, 1. Welcome everybody. It's another episode of the Warmup podcast. It's here. My name's Reg. Y'all familiar with the podcast, and this is Kev RL. It's just us two today holding it down. This is a podcast where we talk about sports and other things going on in Black culture. And I hope y'all enjoyed this episode today. We're just gonna kick it off, man. So lately, I don't know if you guys been keeping track. Track's been going on. Noah Lyles, Sha'Carri Richardson's been holding it down for the USA, but just in general, there's been a lot of great races. A lot of people hitting really good times. Not world records quite yet, but world champions nonetheless.
Yep.
After his win, Noah Lyles, made some comments about world champion because he actually raced against everybody in the world, and that hearing NBA world champion just kind of struck a chord with him. And he got a lot of heat for those comments, and KD says somebody help this brother, and all kinds of other kind of pushback. So just want to kick it off to you, Kev. What do you think about what Noah Lyles says?
First and foremost, big up to Sharika Jackson. She won the 200 meters. US been holding it down mostly, but it usually is between Jamaica and US when it comes to that the relay, and in general the races is always pretty competitive. So it's good to see her in the fight, and she ran a pretty good race. No one was even close to her in that 200. It was a dominant win. So big up to her one time. And jumping into the Noah Lyles situation real quick. I listened to Stephen A. talked about it, but I saw the comments of the NBA players, Kendrick Perk, KD, Aaron Gordon. Everybody seemed to have something to say about it. It was really funny to me because I felt Noah didn't really have to take that stand in which he took. Like, I understand he was trying to big his sport up and make some distinction, but I'm not really in that game of trying to tear down another just to make yourself or make your sport rise up. I felt like he could have put attention to the sport and its significance being on the world stage without having to contrast it to the NBA. With that said, I'm also not appreciating all of the kickback, but I understand. I heard one reporter said they used the word salty in regards to the NBA players, and I agree with that term being used. I feel like you come and talk about my sport, I'm a clap back from that perspective, and I think that's more what it is, because at the end of the day, when you consider the semantics, he's not wrong. You know what I mean? A lot of the arguments being placed out there now is like, oh well, the NBA is that destination for the world's best players. Therefore, if you win there, you are the world champion. And logically, that don't really pan out for me. That is true. There's no doubting that the NBA is the place and where everybody wants to come. And if you are great in your country, more than likely you're working towards getting in the NBA. So, with that said, hands down, that is the destination for the best players. But does that then equate to you becoming the world champion when it's a mix? You know what I mean? Your team might have foreign players, your team may not have any foreign players at all. So I didn't really get that argument, but a lot of people are seeming to get behind that as the case to be made. I disagree. Calling him flagrantly ignorant, which is what the Stephen A. said, and he used the same argument. Hey, you're ignorant because this is the best place. This is where all the top people come. The NBA probably have more competition against foreign players than you. You know what I mean? Talking about the third of the players are foreign from 40 countries, 6 continents. And I'm hearing all of the points, but they were missing the target strictly in respect to semantics, strictly in respect to a world champion. And if we talk about what's happening now with FIBA, if you win FIBA, I think you'll be considered a world champion. FIBA originally was called FIBA World Championship up until 2010, and now it's just FIBA. If that's the world champion,
Was the NBA behind that?
I don't know. It could be that someone decided, hey, maybe we don't need all those words, or let's not have that in the name because we don't need
a letter.
You know what I mean? So I was like, hey, if you win the FIBA, what are you then? You know what I mean? Are you not the world champion? And if that's the world champion, can we have two platforms, and both platforms represent the world champion. Long story short, man, I didn't appreciate the way he came at the NBA. Semantics, he's not wrong. NBA players are salty about it. They have all rights to clap back and put him in his place. But I don't agree with their case in which they're making with respect to NBA being a destination. Therefore, if you win there, you then become the world champion. That, to me, logically, from a just a logical standpoint, I'm taking my engineer hat on, my scientist hat on. It don't equate, but
Don't add up.
hey, it don't add up. But it's okay. It's okay.
Interesting. I'll do the same thing. I'll go back and just talk about the events. Great races by everybody. Great effort. Standouts were obviously Noah Lyles. Whether you hate him or love him, he had a great showing at the track events there. Sha'Carri Richardson. I almost always root for the Jamaicans, the Americans, everybody black. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. I know some people might feel some type of way, but I root for all of them. One thing though, I know Sha'Carri Richardson had some rough times. It was a road, almost like a climb back for her in a lot of ways. She seemed like she showed some promise. She started losing some races. She got banned for some substance disagreement, and I feel like the world piled on her at that moment. She was going through a lot. It was a substance abuse issue where it was just like we're seeing that change in a lot of sports. So they decided to ban her, where that would have given her an opportunity to really take off. And then she lost some races, and there was a lot of discourse of, she lost to all the Jamaicans, da 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 da. But I don't feel like that energy was here to big her up now that she came back and she beat everybody. And that 100-meter race, she won it pretty handily. And they even commented it. She won it from one of the toughest lanes to do it, which is the outside. So shout out to her and the relay races as well. But strong performances by the Jamaicans, as per usual. Like, they're a staple at this point.
Yep.
Especially for sprinting short distance. So in terms of Noah Lyles, I was surprised that you said you had a different take here. Like, I can't argue with what you said. So specifically, semantically speaking, I make that joke all the time. I think a lot of us make that joke all the time. Whenever they say NBA World Champions, it's like at most you play, one team in Canada. That's your in terms of your sparsity and region base. But I do have to agree a bit with a lot of the analysts and the NBA players that content that comment that he made just lacked a lot of context. Going back to even FIBA, as we're saying now, you see a killer game from Dennis Schroeder. You see a killer get like you see a lot of these players, and they're like not the German team, the team that's down, the Latvian team. I think they're down Porzingis, and they're saying this is what's affecting us. Like, a lot of these guys, not to knock them, they are great talents, but they're not even top 10 in the NBA. And they're having these killer games and these performances and really showing out, where in the NBA, yeah, you might have a night like that, but it's not that guy. Where over there, he's the starter. He's the go-to guy. He's the one that's going to get him their buckets, where he might just be a role player on another team. So I think when you put it in that context, you're not wrong. Like, if Dennis Schroeder is the best Germany has to offer, and he's not even the best in the NBA, like, I see the dots they're trying to connect there, where that is the destination. People can take it as a slight. I can see why people would take it as a slight worldwide, but at the end of the day, we're the butt of until recently, and even still recently, MLS is the butt of the joke for the football world. It just is what it is. Some leagues are more developed talent-wise. They've had the investments. They have the pipelines. I think France, like, they do very well in every World Cup because they have this strong pipeline, and that's how they attract talent. They even use that for they have people come to the country to go through that pipeline. Brazil, Argentina, some countries just have a certain pipeline to develop talent that took time to craft. So I think you're just going to see the best in the world be in the USA for a little bit of time because they're just the leaders in basketball for some time. But there's
For a lot of
definitely,
time.
yeah, there's definitely talent from all over the world though, and you're seeing that as well in FIBA. We to be honest with you, it's been a while since like the dream team where you had Jordan and all that. You don't
Yeah.
even have the best players in the NBA representing the USA team. They're really
Facts.
good players, really good players, but they're not the best players. You know,
Facts.
so
Facts. I argue with that.
yeah. So in that context, yeah, semantically, world champion here or there, but Luka Doncic might be the best player out of the country he's from. Same thing with the Porzingis. He's injury prone. He still might be one of the best players out of the country he's from. With Spain, France, they got Fournier on the starting team, and Rudy Gobert. They we've been looking at them a little sideways lately in terms of performance. So I think in that regards, I can see the pushback. I think it's a little bit silly for Noah to make those comments. I think, like you said, it would have been a better use of the platform, in my opinion. You represent it as you want. You want talk, you talk, but just to big up your sport and big up the contenders that you competed against across the world, rather than be like the NBA doesn't even compete against everybody. Like it detracted, if anything, from his accomplishment and everything that everybody else around the world did on that track field. So
Yeah, that's the thing where I was like, when I heard it before I read the comments, I'm like, dude, why? Like, that wasn't even necessary. So I'm not bigging him up or even saying I stand with him. It's just just from a logical standpoint, like you talked about with the different leagues, right? Like the Premier League, you have Man U, Liverpool, and these great football teams, and
Arsenal, all that.
correct. And I don't think if they played in their league and they won, as great as they are, they would call themselves world champions. So I don't think the world champion is something that should be taken in context with what makes up the league, but more of on what stage is it being played, and is it being played on a global stage, yes or no? And NBA isn't played on a global stage. That's not a knock. That's not a put you down in the rank. That's just a fact of the situation. Is not played on a global stage. Everybody can't bring their team in and say, "Hey, let me play for this." We have 30 teams that represent different cities within the United States. So at the end of the day, they rep the city. They're not repping the world. Philly rep Philly. You know what I mean?
The talent pool may be global, but the stage isn't, and just because of that,
Right.
you're gonna have some people who aren't ready to uproot everything and move to the U.S.
Yeah, and to me, that's not a reason for him to say what he said, nor is a reason for them to try to make what he said seem incorrect by bringing that up. So to me, it's a nonsense debate across the board. Like, he shouldn't be talking about it,
Yeah.
and I would let Buddy say whatever he want to say. All right, dude. So what? So what? So I can't. So I don't want to call myself the world. So I'm not the world champion. Am I not the champion in the best league there is? Yes. All right then. End of discussion.
Do you think it was a little bit unfair for him to call out the NBA, because this is not a uniquely NBA issue? This is an American ego issue, right? Whether it's wrestling, the world champion, whether it's boxing, world champion. I mean, boxing is one-on-one, and they do actually fight people from all over the world. But
correct.
What hockey, what else they do? This baseball, the World Series.
I'm with you, man. Like, I had the same exact thought. I started going through my head with the different ones. I landed on boxing just like that. I was like, oh no, Klitschko brothers. I used to watch them a lot growing up. All the players from the different Latino countries and stuff like that. So definitely, boxing is something I say, okay, I can't talk about that one. That one is a little bit more global. But wrestling, which is talking about pro wrestling, which is not even real, you know what I mean? And they still call themselves the world champion. And I did hear him mention the U.S. and how he loved the U.S. And then he ad-libbed that and said, at times, and made specific mention of it's not the world. So yeah, I think you're right. I think he could be taking a jab at more than just the NBA. I'm not sure. I guess he just used NBA as the bear to poke, but it sounds like he's poking more of the overall concept of these different leagues trying to say they represent the world, and maybe he's feeling the whole. Maybe his sport isn't getting the limelight that it deserves, and he's out there traveling.
Yeah.
He's out here running against the best of the best in all these different countries, and maybe he feels slighted,
Yeah.
and he himself is lashing out, which caused the people who you're talking about to lash out as well.
Yeah.
So he created a debate for no reason, like none at all. I think Drake said on his Twitter feed, like, man, he probably felt like he looked in the mirror and thought this was gonna hit, and
He thought it was when he said this, it was gonna be like, oh, Noah Lyles, he got a point. Nah.
and it's not. He doesn't. His point isn't. Nah, it's a miss.
Yeah.
It's a definite miss. It's a definite miss. So
Yeah, I agree.
good luck to him, man. He's been doing really well. I think that was uncalled for, and I think the NBA players shouldn't even stoop to his level to even comment such a thing, because
Well, KD had to say something.
Of course.
KD. I think he was probably the first one.
I think he was. Aaron Gordon talking about I'm a smoke buddy in a 200. Yeah, right.
That's hilarious. I thought that was funny. And even like just to your point with the discourse, whenever we have these hot takes, people with their like if you pick any running back in the last 5 years, they would stop it. Track is a sport where you're really focusing and training to do one thing really well, really efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
You just out of virtue, like some people are multi-talented athletes for sure.
Yep.
But just out of virtue, if you practice one sport at your professional level, you're gonna be good. Like Steph is really good at golf. For somebody who's not a professional golfer,
Yeah.
he'll get cooked by Tiger Woods, I'm sure.
Yep. Specificity, man. It has a big play in the athletic world. When you talked about training, everything you do from the specific training for that sport, as well as the training just to be in shape, is all going to be tweaked and geared towards being the best in that sport. And they're very scrutiny on that sport, and what you're doing is going to be so much at a higher level compared to a running back. He just needs to go really, really fast. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, we're looking at takeoff, how you're coming out of the block, raising your knees, getting the most out of each stride. When to like go from aiming down to tilting your body. Like, y'all's gonna get dialed in, like super dialed in on things that you wouldn't even think about if you weren't in that sport. So
running backs got to break tackles, dodge, elusiveness, need to have lateral motion, need to make sure they're tucking the ball at the right time. They got to do spin moves and leaps and hurdles, and no Elias don't got to worry about none of that.
None of that. Very, very, very dynamic. So it shouldn't be me cross pollinating those discussions. But I can help you. That's the world we live in. Everybody wants to touch on something else, and I don't mind it.
Yeah, me neither. I enjoyed the discourse actually. Not the hot takes from but the actual discourse about it. It was a little funny. I thought it was funny.
It was funny. It was.
So we got a random topic today, some proposed trades. These may not be actual trades on the wire, but just some what if scenarios that we're gonna cover today.
Yeah, it seems like news are getting a little bored with the NBA not being around, so they get into their labs and they start tinkering with stuff and come up with a whole bunch of trade proposals. I'm not sure where they're pulling these out from, but the most recent ones that caught my eye were ones involving teams that we often talk about and often watch, including the Memphis Grizzlies, Golden State Warriors, and Lakers, and of course Miami and Philly, who's been in the news more recently.
Okay.
So because of that, these three trades caught my eye. And just to run them down real quick, for the Memphis trade is between Memphis and Chicago, where Memphis will receive DeMar DeRozan, and Chicago would get Luke Kennard, Steven Adams, Zaire Williams, and a first-round pick. Golden State is a trade with Toronto, where they will receive OG Anunoby, and Toronto would get GP2, JK, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody. And the last trade on the block is Los Angeles, Miami, and Philly in a three-way, where Los Angeles will receive DeMar DeRozan, Miami Heat will get James Harden, and Philly will get D'Angelo Russell, Duncan Robinson, a couple other no names, and Grayson Allen. So,
who's Miami getting again?
James Harden.
James Harden
from Philly, and Philly is getting D'Angelo Russell from Lakers, Duncan Robinson, and Grayson Allen. Jaime Jaquez, I'm not sure who that is, but he's in there as well. Grayson, we do know him, so
Yeah.
that is a mentionable. So I was looking at these trades and I was wondering if any of these have to actually execute. Which one would I want to see, and which one just looks like total mess and won't work out for either team. So I wanted to get your take on it.
I'm thinking about it. I think I kind of like the Miami trade just for a point guard. I don't know what they're going to decide. And it sounds like we don't even have to lose Tyler Hero. That would be a great win if we could manage to pull, James Harden. And that we still keep Kyle Lowry. It just sounds like I didn't hear the Miami had to lose much to get James Harden. Duncan Robinson. That is much, but to be honest, they kind of took him out of rotation voluntarily. He had a great playoff series overall, I think, especially for the way that they didn't really foster him, when his hot run. I feel like they tried to use Strus a little bit more because he's a little bit more dynamic with defense and in other ways outside of just shooting the three at the expense of Duncan. So they seemed like they did without him okay in the regular season. In the playoffs, he proved clutch. But if you can get James Harden, the way they distribute the ball, he's willing to participate in facilitating. I think that sounds good. The first trade that you brought up, all of them kind of sound a little shaky to me, man. I'm like Memphis giving up Steven Adams, and who else?
Luke Kennard.
Like that's he's not the greatest shooter, but he's a pretty good shooter.
He is.
Young player. I think to get DeMar DeRozan on that squad, I just don't. To me, I don't see how that takes them to the next level. I don't feel like that's gonna move the needle for them. I think DeMar DeRozan's great. I didn't think that would be the best one for him. I think in that same Miami trade, you said DeMar DeRozan ends up on the Lakers.
Yep.
I could see DeMar DeRozan on the Lakers. If they don't have to give up the pieces they have now, they can still keep Austin Reeves. They can still keep Rui Hachimura. I like that trade for the Lakers as well more than him ending up on the Grizzlies. I don't.
They would lose D'Lo in that case. Would you be okay with D'Lo?
I think everybody would be okay. And it's crazy how a string of games could just define you, because he was doing all right in silence. First of all, in Lakers, they had the whatever drama, he got sent away. He was doing okay in silence in, what was it, the Utah Jazz? Was it the Jazz? No. It's a smaller market team.
T-Wolves.
T-Wolves. He was doing all right as the T-Wolves at the helm as a point guard, and he's getting more solid. Not a premier point guard, but kept raising his profile. He comes to the Lakers. He has some hot games, but then he just has some moments when he's just like, D'Lo, what are you doing? And you just kind of just deflate so quick. And I just feel like that I don't feel like I'm the only one who feels that way. That D'Lo, he could probably go missing. It's all right.
Yeah, I mean he do go missing, so. Yeah. You might not miss him if you have to leave. And to me, DeMar DeRozan is pretty solid. I think I could count on him, especially on the mid-range game. And he's a solid player, man. You just have certain players in the league that tend to me that they always show up, and they're pretty even keel. They might have really breakout games, but other than that, they're not gonna have too many bad games under their belt. And I like the DeMar DeRozan on the Lakers just for creating that stability. I like the way D'Angelo Russell do just blow out sometimes and just take us to dubs. You know what I mean? Just dropping these threes, but if you can't count it all the time, then it may not be worth it.
How's DeMar from 3-point? Because you brought up a good point. I'm saying, oh yeah, get rid of D'Lo, but that whole time in the beginning of the Lakers season, everybody just kept looking and saying that team needs 3-point shooting.
Yeah.
And now here I am saying get rid of D'Lo, who can. When he is hot, he can knock down a 3.
Yeah, you won't replace his 3-point ability with DeMar DeRozan. At least, I don't think. Every player is trying to stretch themselves a little bit more these days, and DeMar is no exception. They might step out and shoot these threes every now and again, but that's not his bread and butter. I think he's better suited for the mid-range game. and that's fine. We've seen that thrive as well. So
And I think with the nice mid range, even if he misses it, Anthony Davis down in the paint could do some damage on the offensive
mhm.
rebound with that. So
And we still got Bamba who hasn't really played.
mhm.
Um, yep. How about that
Well,
Golden State trade?
I don't like it. I'm gonna be honest
Okay.
with you. I don't like
Yeah.
it. I feel like Golden State needs that young group of guys to just perform and do well, get playing time, and develop. I don't think sending away GP2, who they just brought back in again for defense, and just he can make a play here or two as well. Kaminga, up and down, but a lot of potential. Like, and Moody as well. Like, sometimes I feel like he had a little bit. I want to say, maybe I'm tripping. He was a little bit more consistent. He didn't have
You know.
as many peaks, but he's a little bit more consistent than a lot of the other young guys.
Yep.
So
Especially for the inconsistency in which he's utilized.
yeah,
Comes in and still stays ready to produce. So yeah.
and this was to pick up who now again?
OG
I
Ananobi,
was,
Toronto.
I'll be honest with you. I know he was looked at very highly. I don't watch his game too much, but as a small forward, I feel like you're taking away time for Wiggins, right?
I mean, they might have to squeeze in there. I don't know, but
Because we know they're not getting
no,
moving
that's
away
true.
from Clay.
That's true.
Steph is solidified. They just brought in the point guy, Chris Paul.
If Chris was here, Chris would be like, man, just get rid of Clay. He's just holding y'all back. Yeah, you're right. They're not gonna go away from Clay. So
Yeah.
that would be an interesting lineup on how they would try to play those two together.
And then you still have Draymond, and you still have Draymond, who just, I think they gave him the big money, right? They gave him the money he was asking for. Got rid of what's his name? Wow.
Pool party.
They got the pool party. Then brought up the splash. So I don't know, because right after that, after Draymond Green, who sometimes plays the 5 or the 4, you got Looney, who, man,
He's there.
Man,
He ain't going nowhere.
for the playoffs, that brother played up. If anybody needed to step up, and we talk about how some people disappointed us, Looney was not on that list. So
Yeah.
who's giving up playing time for Anunoby?
Yeah, that's a tough one. For me, that was the worst one I saw on the docket. I looked at it. I'm like, man, of all these trades, that's the one I at least see happening, and I don't care for it to happen. And the three-way with Los Angeles, Miami, Philly, and I think Bucks are in there too for the Grayson Allen situation. But they didn't mention who Bucks would get though. But maybe he's on free agency. I'm not sure. That was the most likely, or I should say, the one that can benefit a lot of people in the mix. The Memphis one wasn't too pleasing as well, because I believe those are good players. Steven Adams at the core, they were missing him greatly.
We saw what happened when he wasn't there, so you're gonna send him away? Yeah, right.
Yeah, nah, definitely not. So
And leadership, how he tried to steer the ship right when people were veering off the track, and hey, don't go out and party. So the leadership, the veteran, the size, he's I think it's hard for big guys to go up against him, especially these new big lanky guys.
mhm.
He's a rebounding machine, and he's a lot of muscle, a lot of fight. So
Yep.
they need that.
So yeah, just one of these three proposals get a gold star for me. The other two don't make the cut.
Hard pass.
Hard pass.
I don't think it's good for either team, to be honest. I don't see how that helps with Toronto. I don't see how it helps Chicago. Yeah,
Toronto just get some young players that they can mold and
they are on
grow
a
around
rebuild.
with. Yeah.
Well, I think we
Yeah,
can
man.
go ahead and sign
That was
off
it.
and wrap it up. Then I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. Thanks for watching us. Tell a friend to tell his friend. Like, follow, subscribe. You know all the socials. You know where we are by now. If not, it's down in the description. That's it for me. I hope y'all have a good one. I'll kick it off to Kev.
Yeah, man. As always, your time is valuable, so we appreciate when you spend it with us. We here. We try to get out these episodes on a consistent basis. If you like what you're seeing, go ahead and like, and just stay tuned, or even put a comment out there. Let us know if you appreciate what we're putting out, or if you want to see a change. We're open to suggestions as well. just interact. And the Discord is also available for you to just touch bases with us and just have a, you know, a grounds conversation. We're always available. So we're here.
Hey, until next time.